right, let's go ahead and get started. So I'm really excited about the story this week. It's called Acres of Diamonds. And it's actually, this might sound kind of corny to you guys, but it's actually, it's my alarm clock on my phone is set to this like record. It's a recording by Earl Nightingale called Acres of Diamonds. And it's about this story. So every morning I wake up, I hear the beginning of the story each morning, and it reminds me of it. And so the story it's actually a true story, and it was told by a guy named Russell Conwell. And Russell Conwell is the man who started Temple University in the United States. And he started the university because a group of young students came to him and said, "Hey, like we love school, we love studying, we really want a great college education." It was a couple hundred years ago, but there's no good school for them to go to, and they didn't have the money, they didn't have scholarships, like those things didn't exist at the time, so there was nowhere they could go to learn. And so they came to him and said, "We really want to learn, can you help us?" And so he got this idea to go to give this lecture across the country and to raise money to found this university. And so he did that. He raised millions of dollars. He gave like 6,000 plus speeches. And in every speech, he told this story called Acres of Diamonds, and it made an impact on millions of people all over the world. And eventually he raised millions of dollars to fund the university because of this speech and because of this story. So the story goes, there's a farmer in Africa, and he had a farm and, nice farm life. But he got kind of tired. He got kind of bored with his life. He got kind of bored with farming. And he heard about all these people in Africa who had found diamonds, and they had gone prospecting for diamonds, and they got rich. And, it's like winning the jackpot. It's like winning the lottery nowadays. It's like, or maybe winning the cryptocurrency lottery, right? It's like you hear about someone who makes millions of dollars overnight, and you think, wow, I want that life. I want what they have. And sometimes we get so frustrated or stuck in our own life, we think, wow, I really want this other thing. I want it, and I want what's easy. I want to go for that path, right? And so that's what he decided to do. He said, I want to go find diamonds. And so he the next day sells his farm. He didn't care about the price because he's gonna be rich from diamonds. So he just sells the farm right away and goes start traveling across the continent and looking for diamonds. Well, he spends his whole life traveling across Africa looking for diamonds and never gets there. So he ends up broke, unfulfilled, unhappy with his life. He lost touch with his family. He's depressed, and he's so upset with his life that he throws himself into a river and kills himself. And that's how his life ends. So meanwhile, back at the farm, the person who bought the farm, he's just a happy farmer. He's working on the land. He's got his family. He's happy. And one day he's walking around, and he notices there's a stream on his property, and he looks down at the bottom of the stream bed, and he sees like a little shining glint of light hits his eye. And so he sees a stone down there. He picks up the stone and looks at it, and looks pretty cool. He doesn't know what it is. He puts it on his mantelpiece in his living room. And a couple months later, he has a friend come over and visit. And his friend looks at the stone and says, "Oh my gosh, do you know what this is?" And the farmer says, "No, it's just a crystal I found down in the creek bed." And his friend says, "No, this is a diamond. And this is actually like one of the biggest diamonds any human has ever found." And the farmer's like, "Well, I don't know about that. I don't think it could be a diamond because they're just all in this creek bed. There's a whole bunch of these rocks down there." And turns out he was sitting on the largest diamond mine in the African continent. And so turns out this first farmer spent his whole life looking for diamonds, looking for opportunities. And when he was literally sitting on the largest diamond mine in the continent, right in his home, right? So, and there's another story called The Alchemist. I don't know if any of you read The Alchemist, but it's a very similar kind of story. It's one of the best-selling books in the world by Paulo Coelho. And it's a very similar story. This guy starts off at home, has this very special place at home, and he goes looking for treasure all across the world. And he finally comes back home and finds it exactly where he started in the first place, right? And this story is so meaningful to me. It's so important because I think it illustrates, that opportunities are all around us, right? You don't have to sell everything. You don't have to change your whole life to have a better life, right? You don't have to sacrifice everything you've already worked towards and built in order to get something better. You can work with what you have right now to make a better life, right? And there's a lot of great lessons we can take away from the story, right? I mean, one of the things is, really study your own farm, right? Study your own field, study your own land, until you've really studied what you're working on now, until you really studied your life right now, until you really looked at it from all the different angles and asked for advice and sought help, until you've explored your own land, going off and looking at some other land isn't going to help you, right? And we talked before about dragons, right? Which is the thing you're afraid of, the problems, the challenges in life. And a lot of times people, you ignore the dragons for so long, and then you look at them, these big scary dragons on your land, and all you see is this big scary dragon on your land, right? And you say, I gotta sell this land right now, and I've got to move to, this land over here. I see greener pastures, right? You see greener pastures over in the neighbor's farm, in the neighbor's yard, and you say, I've got to go over there because, well, if you're honest with yourself, it's just an emotional thing, right? You're afraid to work on the problems and challenges you see right in front of you. And at the same time, you're excited and you're maybe a little bit greedy about having a better life easily, right? Without having to make the sacrifices, without having to do the work, without having to go through those challenges. You think you can get something for nothing, essentially, right? And this is, I've made this mistake so many times. I think it's a mistake that all humans make at one point or another, because it's kind of how we're wired. And I think the reason this story and a lot of stories like this are so often told and so profound is because I think we have to constantly remind ourselves that, hey, if I really want a better life, the opportunities are right in front of me. They're right here, right? And I don't have to go off, change everything in my life to make a better life. I can work with what I have right here. So one of the lessons is, fully explore your own work, right? Fully explore, what are you doing right now? What's working, what's not working? Fully explore yourself. What's working with you, what's not working with you. Fully explore your relationships, your family life, your studies, your hobbies, your health, your spirituality, whatever it is you're working on in life, whatever it is that's important to you in life. Really study it. Really spend time thinking about it. Really spend time asking for advice on it, talking about it, instead of just saying, well, there's a problem, I'm going to go find this other thing, right? Instead of just looking for the easy way out, really focus on the problems, really take the time to look at the problems. And, someone said, pain plus reflection equals progress, right? Like emotional pain plus reflection equals progress. Like when we look at those problems, we feel emotional pain, we feel fear, we feel anxiety, we feel stress. And for some of us, it can be overwhelming. So that's why we want to take the easy way out, because we want to just get rid of it, right? We want to get rid of that pain. But if you can just sit with that pain and look at it, pretty soon you'll see your problems will turn into huge opportunities for you, right? And you can transform them by being able to sit with that pain and think about them and reflect about it without overreacting, right? Without making a rush decision, without really thinking through about the consequences. I had a conversation with a mentor one time, and he's kind of like drilling me. He's like, Tom, what do you think about this industry and that industry? And so he's like, what do you think about the airline industry? Is that a good industry or a bad industry? And I was like, well, it's probably a bad industry. I hear it's really competitive and not a lot of people make money in it. And then so he kept going through these different industries. What about the garbage disposal industry and or recycling industry and all this stuff? And so some industries, he asked me about a bunch of them, and I said, some of them were really good, some of them not so great, and some of them probably pretty bad industries. And he said to me, Tom, look, you're wrong. That's just your opinion. He said, there are people in every industry, thousands of people who have lost everything, lost their money, lost their fortunes, went bankrupt. And there are some people in every industry who made fortunes and made the world a better place and made a huge difference. And he said, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. It doesn't matter what line of work you're in. It doesn't matter what you do in your life. What matters is how you do what you do. What matters is how well you study what you do, how well you prepare for what you do, how well you focus and really mine your diamonds, right? How well you really focus on what you're doing. Because if you're always looking for the next thing, if you're always looking for the big opportunity, if you're always looking for something better, you never really appreciate what you have right in front of you, and you're never going to be the best at what you do, right? Because you're always looking for the shortcut. But there is no shortcut to success, right? And the thing with setting goals and life is setting goals is really important, but it's not achieving the goal that's what's important. It's who you become in the process, right? It's the growth you get along the journey. We've all heard that phrase, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey in life. And it's so true. And actually neuroscience proves this too, is that you're happiest when you're approaching a goal, right? And when you actually hit the goal, you're going to be depressed, right? A lot of people think, oh, we're going to be so excited I hit a goal. But the problem, you're excited for a little bit, and the next day you're way down because you need a new goal. You need a new mountain to climb. You need a new challenge in life. Otherwise, your brain just neurochemically is not going to be happy, right? So you always have to have something to shoot for, something to aim for. And the problem with kind of making those jerk reactions of selling the farm and going to look for everything else is like, is you lose that sense of progress. You lose that sense of completion. And oftentimes you're just shooting yourself in the foot, right? You're hurting yourself, you're sabotaging yourself instead of actually making your life better. So another lesson from this is you can look at your work like a stranger would. Look at your life like a stranger would. One of the things I heard one time is that there's a study that we actually give better advice to our friends than we do to ourselves. So if they do these studies where there's like a challenging situation that people have to deal with, and they'll deal with it just on their self, and then they'll deal with it like the same situation, but it's like a friend in that situation. They have to give their friend advice, and we always give our friends better advice than the actual decisions that we make in life. We give our friends better advice. We treat our friends better than we treat ourselves, right? And part of that is like a kind of psychological bias that we have, but the way around this is, first of all, have good friends, have a team you can talk to people about your problems. Don't just try to fix it in your own head, because if you're just thinking all by yourself, you're probably not going to make the best decisions for your life, right? But if you can talk to people, you can have discussions with people who really care about you, with people who are your real friends who want what's best for you, they'll help you make better decisions and better choices in life. And it's not about, like just doing what everyone tells you to do. That's not what it's about. It's about having that dialogue, having that discussion, so you can really discover what's best for you. So another great way you can do this too is like journaling, right? So asking yourself questions like, what would my best friend tell me to do in this situation, right? How would my best friend approach this dragon? How would my best friend approach this situation? How would my best friend deal with that problem, right? So, how would your best friend deal with your work? How would your best friend deal with your health problems? How would your best friend deal with your personal problems, your relationship problems, spiritual problems, whatever you're working on, whatever you're dealing with? Like, how would your best friends deal with that? And then you can think about that on your own and journal it. And you can also talk to people and get advice from people. And also, one of the things about talking to people is sometimes you don't even want people to give you advice, right? You just want them to listen. If they'll just listen to you, you can talk through the problem yourself, right? And so you need the people who you can tell, like, hey, like, I don't want your advice. Can you just listen to me? And I want to talk about this. And I just love for you to listen to me and have some compassion, and I can figure it out on my own. And then if you want advice, you can always ask for it, right? Another question to ask is like how good are you right now? How good are you at your job? How good are you at your relationships? How good are you at your health? How good are you at your social life, right? Like honestly rate yourself. Like, how good are you right now? And how good would your friends say you are, right? How good would your best friend say you are? Honestly, like honest feedback. And how would you stack up against other people, right? And I don't think comparing ourselves to other people is not a good idea, right? Like we can feel really bad. Like if we look on Facebook and social media, if we see everyone's, they've got these happy lives, and it's like you only see this like fraction of reality, right? But I think having that assessment isn't so you can be better than other people. It's so that you can be better than you are now. So instead of comparing yourself to other people, you compare yourself to your old self, right? Are you better? I know I'm better than old Tom, right? Tom 10 years ago, I am so much better. I'm stronger, I'm wiser, I'm kinder, I'm more loving, more passionate. Like there's so many things that I have better than my old self. So it's not about comparing yourself to other people, but it's about getting an honest assessment of where you are right now, so that once you know that, then you can see where you want to go. Right? You can see what your goal is. You can see really clearly the path you want to go. And again, that's what's going to make you happy. Just it's like how the brain works, right? It's like you have to know where you are so you can know where you want to go. And so you can see steps you can make forward to make progress on your journey, right? Another question is like, what could you learn? Like, what could you learn right now? What could you do that would improve your skills, improve your ability, improve your talents and work and relationships in any area of life? Like, what could you study? What could you learn? I just moved to a new city a couple months ago, and one of the things I love to do is play table tennis. And for whatever reason, like I looked in a couple of places, but I just couldn't find a place to play. And finally, I just said, you know what? This is ridiculous. Like there's the internet. I'm just gonna go find a place on the internet to play table tennis. And like 15 minutes later, after I made the decision, I found like 2 places I can go play any day of the week. Right? It's one of those things where it's like I knew I could do it, but I didn't take that step. Right? And so I think there's probably a lot, like we all have those opportunities in life where it's like, you can do something, like there's a skill you could learn, a thing you could do, a resource you could go after, but maybe you just have been putting it off. Maybe you just didn't make that decision yet to go after it. And once you make that decision, your mind will make it seem like it's way more challenging than it is at first. But once you make the decision, it's really easy because you have clarity and you can just take the right steps to make it happen. Another question is like, how can we serve each other better as a team? How can we serve our authors better? How can we serve our readers better, right? Like, how can we add more value to the world? I think that's such a great question to ask all the time. It's like, how can we add more value, right? Because if you're adding more value to your team's life, to our customers' life, to our authors, our readers, to your family, to your friends, like if you're adding more value every day, every week, every month to other people's lives, like you're gonna be happy because you're growing, right? And everyone around you is gonna be happier because you're adding more value to your community, right? And people are gonna love to have you around. So another thing about the story is there's a temptation, right? This temptation to run away. It's like we all have that, right? Like I'm sure we've all had a temptation in life where it's like, I got these problems, I got these challenges. Like it'd be so much easier if I just sold the farm and moved. It's just so much easier if I just ran away. And the problem is, wherever you go, there you are, right? Like wherever you go, your problems are going to come with you, right? You can change your environment, but it's still you, right? And all your problems, other than the stuff that, God did or the universe or what stuff outside your control, all of your problems, stem from you, right? Like we're responsible for our own lives. And so running away isn't going to solve your problems. You're just going to have a whole new list of problems, right? And same thing, achieving a goal isn't going to solve your problems either. A lot of times people think, well, I'm going to achieve this goal and I won't have any, like if I make enough money, I'll never have problems again. Turns out it doesn't work, right? It just doesn't work because you're always going to have new problems and new challenges in life. And so the idea isn't to reach a final destination and stay there. It's to keep moving, keep making progress, to keep growing personally and professionally. So prevail right where you are, right? You don't need to run away. Right where you are, there's so many opportunities for you to succeed and be successful and be happy. So I want to start a writing exercise. So on the meeting notes there's a couple questions. So let's work on these questions for like 5-10 minutes or so, and then we'll come back and discuss. And just listen to people, because I'm not going to learn if I keep telling people if I keep telling people what the answer is for me, like I'm not going to learn anything, so I just listen and just like be like open to new ideas and calm down and just listen. Like I would get so much more wisdom and value out of that interaction, So I don't know if that resonates with you and helps, but try that out.